So I was wrong. But let me first start by clarifying exactly what I said, because I know people are going to misconstrue what I said. So my whole argument was not simply that, you can't replace Biden. If you replace Biden, that's a bad idea. My whole argument was we have to make decisions based on data, not on emotion. Based on the data we had at the time, it indicated that switching Joe Biden would be a bad idea. I looked at the polls of all the alternative candidates, and they were not doing as well as Joe Biden. However, there was always the possibility that even though we didn't have the data to support it, because things are not perfect, right? Just because we don't have the data to support something doesn't mean it's not so, right? Like, I don't currently have any data that supports the idea of being able to use a gasoline engine in a car and get 200 miles per gallon with a car that performs like, say, an average sedan. So it's not some car that's super slow or whatever. Drives like a normal car, 200 miles per gallon gas. I don't have any data to support that is a thing. But just because I don't have the data for it doesn't mean it's not a thing. There could be some new method or strategy, some scientific principle, some new type of gasoline engine that I've never heard of that could be invented. So it's the same kind of thing here. There could have been an amazing candidate that actually would have done way better than Joe Biden, but we didn't have any data to support that, right? And until we had data to support it, my whole thing was, swapping Biden based on emotion, not the best call, right? The other thing that I was thinking about when I was making my statements was I was taking into account the damage that would occur from the swapping, right? So I'm looking at it from that angle. So you swap out Joe Biden, then there's all this chaos and back and forth and people trying to get attention, people taking advantage of the moment, I should be president, and back and forth, and the Democratic elites and the progressives or whoever it is going back and forth, and it's a whole mess. Meanwhile, the GOP is united. Would not be a good look. So in my calculations, I estimated a points loss from the chaos, especially from the people in the middle, the independent voters who might not be watching the news that much. So they don't really know exactly what's going on. They're just hearing all this chaos and this and that, and the Democrats are fighting and blah, 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 right? So I accounted for a points loss from that, right? And then based on the polling, we would only gain about 1 or 2 points from whoever they're replacing with based on the polling that we had. So you lose like a couple points from the chaos. And then at the end of it, when things settle out and you have another candidate that's not as old as Joe Biden, not suffering from the issues he's suffering from, then you gain some points back, but it's kind of a, it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back type of thing, right? You took an initial hit, and then at the end you gain a little bit, but you lost a little bit. So what was the point? So here's one thing that I missed, and it's not something that I missed because no one knew. There's no way to have known that this is how things would have played out. So the chaos that I calculated into my, my assessment, that didn't happen, right? That was always a big part of it because I was never looking at it as, because I had always stated, right, in contrary to what some progressive media people were saying, they were against Kamala Harris. I'm not the biggest Kamala Harris fan at all. In fact, I'm not a fan, straight up. But again, I was looking at the data, and I think she had a 1-point advantage or something back then. So I was saying, based on the data, we shouldn't swap Joe Biden, but if we do, it's got to be Kamala Harris, unless or until we can identify someone else that would be that superstar type candidate. Because I looked at all the Newsoms and whatever, and I just wasn't seeing the numbers, man. So what actually ended up happening is they did a super smooth transition. Biden pretty much stepped down, and then they just all united behind Kamala Harris. She got this, big endorsement from Obama, from Jeffries, from pretty much all the major Democrats. Initially, 250 Democrats united behind her. So, I criticize the Democrats a lot, but, I will give them credit that they were smart enough in the situation, perhaps, I'm assuming, obviously, to realize how bad things were, and probably were seeing the same thing that I was seeing in terms of my assessment of the loss of points. So they're already losing a race. They couldn't afford to lose points with the chaos, and they probably rightfully picked up on that as well, and they were able to communicate that with the party. They had some closed-door meetings, I presume, and people communicating behind the scenes, and they must have came to the conclusion, listen, guys, we're going to be absolutely wiped out if we don't do this nice and clean. So I don't know how much they planned, how much they did they all say, like, it's got to be Kamala, or did they just say, whoever it is, that's going to be the one, whatever it is. I think they wisely decided that, in this moment, we cannot afford the chaos. So they did a nice clean thing. Everyone's endorsing her. And then the other thing is, well, I talked about the money as well. That's why I always said if they're going to swap it, it's got to be Kamala Harris, right? So just like I said before, she gets access to the money. It will be problematic for other people, but she's right there. It's also the fact that, she's part of the ticket. It's the Biden-Harris ticket. So, people voted in the primary for the Biden-Harris team. So she's part of that team as opposed to like just jumping to Newsom or somebody else. She's got the name recognition. So taking out the chaos and all this unity, and then there is the energy behind a potential first female president. She's younger. People are sick and tired of these old presidents. So we have a younger person, a female person. As a former prosecutor, that could come in handy with the, debates and things like that. Now, my issue with her and the way people are, and I'm doing a 3-part series talking about that, so I probably shouldn't talk about it too much in this video, but my issue with her is she's almost in some ways loosely sort of the way I look at Cornel West, where Cornel West had a past in activism and it seems like he has done some good work in the past and he's gotten this legendary reputation, but the man that he is now is an absolute joke, politically speaking, which is why his campaign didn't go anywhere. There was no real movement behind him, just a bunch of progressive media guys online just doing what they do. But the similarity I think with her is, I don't know, when you look at her career and what she was able to accomplish as a prosecutor, as attorney general, she had some major wins. And when I looked at my introduction to her, when she first came on the big stage with the hearing and her questioning, she seemed pretty sharp. She seemed pretty good at what she was doing. And then she decided to run for president, and hot sauce, I don't know, she just seems so much like a jellyfish, man. Just floating around with the tide. And she always seems to be so performative, like she's trying to come up with a cool line to say, brothers and sisters, yeah. And then her voice is so annoying, I swear. Brothers and sisters, yeah. I can't even do it. I can't do it, man. But we're going to talk more about that in a future video. And we're going to talk about the laugh comments. Those comments are ridiculous, but I believe there is some merit to it. Like I always tell my viewers, the big part of what makes good propaganda is you got to start with some truth. An inch of truth and a mile of lies. So the laugh commentary, contrary to what progressive media would like you to think, there is some truth to it, right? There's some truth to their arguments as well. I mean, if your guy is Trump, and there's so much substantive stuff to say about Trump, and your biggest pushback to Kamala Harris is her laugh, it's kind of like trying to go after Joe Biden, and instead of going after him directly, you focus on Hunter Biden. It's almost telling, as if even you can't really find some good dirt on the person. They almost appear like they don't have good dirt on Kamala Harris, so we're going to focus on her laugh. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in my 3-part series. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell, be well. So I don't know. A lot of people are optimistic. I spoke to some normies in the neighborhood, and they're definitely paying attention. And the word on the street that I'm hearing is people were distressed before, and now they have a feeling of hope. So, she's raising a lot of money. People are, I don't know, they seem to be liking her, or liking the idea of her, or at least in preference to the alternative. I think when the choice is between Joe Biden and Trump, the enthusiasm to replace Trump is not as much, right? I think it's greater for Kamala Harris. When people are looking like, okay, we can get rid of Trump and then this is who we have, okay. That's kind of looking more, instead of, we get rid of Trump and then we got Biden. Oh my goodness. Did you see the debate? Anyway, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. And remember to click on the like button, subscribe if you haven't done already. And until next time.